The lazy, poverty-stricken armpit exhibitionist John Badapple is a flexible, pesky shrine maiden who wants to restrict the opponent's game plan with their simple-to-use yet versatile tools and fundamental strategies. She is not an all-rounder like Marissa and can be outclassed by the others who have specialized game plans. Reimu also can run out of spirit orbs quite easily, but by playing Reimu Hakurei in Soku, you will learn to manage your spirit orbs well, think ahead preemptively as you adapt to your opponent, and most importantly, be patient. Your main goal with Reimu is to control space and restrict the opponent's bullets and movement. Your primary long-ranged attack is neutral C, on the ground or in the air. These pizza box-like C bullets absorb weaker, less dense bullets and home onto the opponent. When charged by holding down the button, it will follow the opponent better, have more hits, and be able to absorb some higher density bullets as well, at the cost of starting slower. If aerial neutral C is performed before Reimu lands, she will hover, and you can cancel this hover, known as hover canceling, into a skill or a high jump, just like she can with a grounded neutral C. You won't be able to block while she's hovering though, so just land like usual most of the time, and only go for a hover cancel if you need to cover your landing with a dense bullet. Usually a single C bullet at a time is good enough at long range, but you can overwhelm the opponent with more dense bullets using Hakurei amulets, Reimu's default quarter circle forward skill. You will mostly use the B version because the C version starts slower. Reimu will spawn 2 square bullets a little away from her, and then these squares will act like the single C bullets, but with half of the density. You could charge Hakurei amulets to send out more squares, but that's pretty slow as well. If you use the skill before Reimu lands, you will cancel the move by landing, known as land canceling, which allows you to act quick enough to use the bullets as advancing shields. In addition to throwing out squares with neutral C and Hakurei amulets, you'll also want to set up a cautionary border, Reimu's default quarter circle back skill. The B version places this wall closer to Reimu, while the C version places the wall further away. This stationary bullet will wall off most bullets, except super dense ones like Oku's or ghostly ones like Yuyuko's. The wall can also hit the opponent if they aren't grazing through it, and you can potentially combo off of it. Cautionary border's restriction on bullets and movement prompts the opponent to do one of 4 things. 1. If they can knock down your wall with a bullet, you can graze the incoming bullet and go for pressure. 2. If you think they'll graze through the wall, you'll want to intercept them with a melee. 3. If you think they'll go around the wall, you can chase them and interrupt them there. And 4. If you think they'll stay where they are, you can attack safely behind your wall. At long range, you'll usually want to place a wall a little above the ground so that it can hit both grounded and aerial opponents. You can also place a wall near the corner to greatly restrict a cornered opponent's movement. By playing multiple copies of this skill card in a match, you will level up the skill, which will make the walls last longer per level. Use C bullets, Hakurei amulets, and walls to stop the opponent from using bullets and to control space, limiting where they can go. When controlling space at long range with squares and walls doesn't work, you'll want to interrupt the opponent with Reimu's quicker bullets, Yokai Buster and B bullets. Yokai Buster is the most popular of Reimu's alternate skills, which it replaces the quarter circle forward skill. These quick, non-homing bullets, which get quicker when leveled up, are good at sniping the opponent when Reimu is vertically level with them. They absorb less dense bullets, and they give Reimu access to more lenient, simple, damaging combos. Although you can land cancel Yokai Buster to alleviate its slow recovery, the opponent can easily graze through it and punish you if you're too close, so do not use the skill mindlessly. If you're not using Yokai Buster or you need to cover diagonal angles, you can use B bullets instead, which have low density but are still pretty quick. Reimu will try to aim the cards, but since she's a lazy bum, she won't aim them very well, and so you'll need to aim them yourself. Neutral B, both on the ground or in the air, will send the cards forward, whereas grounded forward B sends them upward, and aerial down B sends them downward. You could charge the B bullets to throw out a burst of cards rather than a line of them to cover a wider space, but it's slower to start, and the randomly sent cards can be easier to graze through. Forward B on the ground is good against aerial opponents, either ones at far distances or when they're rushing at you with an aerial melee. If they're straight above you, you can use down C, which goes straight up and can lead to air combos, but it isn't super fast and tends to not clash with other bullets. Both forward B and down C are pretty good anti-air bullets, but you may need to switch to melee anti-airs when the opponent starts grazing those bullets. When the opponent is grazing through all of your bullets and rushing you down, you'll need to keep them out with melees. Forward A isn't super fast, but can go under some high-hitting attacks and is surprisingly tall. This is your primary melee anti-air since the opponent cannot block it if they're airborne, and you can follow up with either a combo in the corner or, to stay close to the opponent, the B version of Dimensional Rift, Reimu's default reverse Dragon Punch skill. On the topic of the B version of Dimensional Rift, as cool as this teleport dive kick is, you don't really use this often, especially as a YOLO move, since it's not very fast, doesn't graze bullets, and Reimu will be left very vulnerable if the attack misses or is blocked. Back to anti-airs. If the opponent is really close, backward A or close neutral A is a very stubby slap, but it also cannot be blocked in the air and can lead to an air combo if you're quick enough. Down forward A is a diagonal kick that can go under some high-hitting attacks and comes out on frame 13. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it, it just means that this move is pretty quick and is often used as a get-off-me reversal move, very similar to Ascension Kick, Reimu's default Dragon Punch skill, which also comes out on frame 13, but is also not invincible at the start. The B version of the skill can go under some high-hitting attacks, but the C version grazes bullets as soon as you perform it, frame 1, and it can be cancelled into spell cards. However, both down forward A and Ascension Kick are risky since they leave Reimu very vulnerable afterward, and so you'll only want to use them when necessary. Dash C, nicknamed the Messy Kick, also leaves Reimu vulnerable, but specifically after the opponent blocks it on the ground. This melee anti-air doesn't lead into much after it hits, and it doesn't graze immediately out of the dash, only grazing between frames 5 to 22. But its property to graze bullets, combined with the horizontal area it can cover, makes it a very useful melee anti-air for mid-range. If Reimu is also in the air, aerial neutral A has okay range, but its long duration means you can't really do anything else until Reimu lands or the attack connects. You mostly use it when starting pressure, falling on top of the opponent, or when aerial upward A won't reach. Reimu's aerial upward A is great when the opponent is close enough because it's one of the fastest in the game, coming out on frame 9, one frame quicker than Reimu's aerial neutral A, and it hits opponents above you as well. Reimu's aerial forward A has a good horizontal range and moves Reimu forward, but leaves her vulnerable if you miss or don't follow it up with a bullet on block. This move can be good to catch grazing opponents, especially if you're quick enough to use a B or C bullet, cancel that into a high jump, then immediately do aerial forward A. But in general, its upward angle can make it difficult for it to connect. Aerial down A starts super slow, so you'll have to be preemptive about it or else you'll get interrupted. But the slam covers directly below Reimu, and it leads to either a knockdown when you hit it regularly or a ground bounce combo on counter hit. If both characters are on the ground, far neutral A or forward A both can be good melees to keep the opponent out. Down A also has a similar amount of horizontal range, but its long duration leaves Reimu vulnerable if you miss, its many hits make cancelling into other things inconsistent, and some moves can even go over it, so I don't use this one often. To recap this section on melees, use forward A and dash C most of the time for melee anti-airs, and use the other anti-airs when the situation calls for it. In the air, go for aerial neutral A and aerial upward A, and on the ground, far neutral A and forward A are good melee pokes. Use these keep out melees in the right situations to stop opponents from getting too close to Reimu. However, the opponent will get in eventually, and so when you're on defense, you'll usually do what all characters can do: hold back or down back to block. If you don't block on defense, this will happen to you. As you block, take note of any patterns you see the opponent doing for their offensive pressure. At certain points, when you're confident the opponent will do a certain thing, you'll be able to counter that thing at that point and potentially escape. One thing to look out for from the opponent is the opponent committing to a bullet attack. Most of the time, if you guess that a bullet is coming, you'll want to graze it by either high jumping or holding forward and the fight button to dash. If you dash under an aerial opponent, you can use dash B to get further away. Similarly, you can use the C version of Dimensional Rift, that default reverse Dragon Punch skill, to escape pressure if you're given the time to perform it and the opponent isn't expecting it. Not used often, but it's an option. If you can't find an opportunity to graze the bullet for whatever reason, you'll sometimes want to use the border escape mechanic. While blocking, you can hold the direction, usually a forward direction, and tap the flight button twice. For the risky but sometimes worth it cost of manually guard crushing one of your spirit orbs, you will be able to dash or high jump out of the overwhelming situation that you couldn't have otherwise. You don't usually want to mash attacks as Reimu on defense, either because her reversal moves like down forward A and ascension kick are risky, as mentioned earlier in the melee section, or because Reimu's quickest attack, close neutral A or backward A, both come out on frame 8, which is 1 frame later than almost every other character, and that 1 frame does make a difference. Because Reimu's too lazy to have quicker attacks, you can compensate by using defensive system cards like Talisman, nicknamed Bomb, which coincidentally blasts the opponent away if you aren't doing any actions, and Raiment, nicknamed Hangeki, which is used when you are blocking an attack and it knocks the opponent down if it hits. Keep in mind that when these defensive cards are blocked or they miss, the opponent can punish you afterward, so look for times when the opponent is committing to something slow to use these defensive system cards. For a further comprehensive explanation on defense in Soku, I highly suggest checking out Genki's great video, How to Defend. But if you're just starting out, just block patiently. Then, once you find an opportunity, you can escape by grazing those bullets, risk yourself with mashing, or using Soku's defensive mechanics. After you land a hit and get a combo, you'll generally want to knock the opponent down, and if you have the time to, you can set up a Cautionary Border or Reimu's 1-cost spell card, Orbs of Light. Aside from these bouncing orbs being used in combos or after a skill, these orbs will absorb most bullets, they don't vanish into thin air when Reimu has been hit or knocked down, and prompt the opponent to either graze them, which you can melee them, or block the orbs. After you guess where the opponent will be when they get up from a knockdown, it's your turn to run some offensive pressure. Reimu's offense is centered around her down B. This bullet allows Reimu to act quicker than the opponent if the opponent blocks it at a specific range. This range is at the tip of far neutral A or down A, so you'll want Reimu to be at this range on offense most of the time. If the opponent blocks the down B, it will deplete one of their spirit orbs, and if they run out of them, they will get guard crushed, making them lose access to one spirit orb until it comes back after some time, and giving you a combo opportunity. So, your main pressure sequence is cancelling and switching between using the down B bullet and melee pokes, like far neutral A, down A, and forward A. Then, if you get pushed out too far away, you might want to dash to get back to that tip range. When performing the main down B plus melee's pressure sequence, there are 3 things you'll look out for from the opponent. 1. The opponent mashing attacks, 2. The opponent grazing your bullets, or 3. The opponent blocking your attacks. If the opponent senses you're dashing in, or there's a gap in your pressure, or maybe they just want to press buttons, the opponent may mash attacks to get out of pressure. If you think they'll mash, you want to be just outside of the opponent's melee range so you can safely interrupt their mashing with bullets or well-timed melees, and then try to convert that interrupting hit into a combo. When the opponent has an invincible or grazing move and you think they'll use it against your pressure, you want to stop what you're doing and block that reversal move if you're too close, as those reversals tend to make the opponent vulnerable after they are blocked or they miss, which afterwards gives you an opportunity to punish them with a combo. When the opponent knows when you'll throw a bullet like down B at them and they start grazing your bullets with movement, you want to refrain from using bullets and instead use melee attacks more to stop them from getting away with dashing or sometimes high jumping. Side note, you could also use dash A as a melee poke, which is the fastest dash A in the game tied with Alice. It also cannot be blocked in the air, and it can be cancelled into a skill like Ascension Kick, so you can mix up doing that or not doing that, but I don't like using dash A often because when the opponent blocks dash A, they can act quicker than Reimu can, and so you'll lose your turn to pressure. I would suggest sticking with the other melees for the pressure sequence. If you've gotten the opponent to stop mashing or grazing, and instead they start blocking more of your offense, only then will you have an opportunity to guard crush the opponent. Aside from making them block down B 5 times, a simple way to guard crush is to use the 4-cost spell card Blue Orb. If the opponent blocks it, you can then hide Reimu inside of the Blue Orb and either charge forward A if the opponent is blocking low, or down forward A if they are blocking high. If you guess correctly, you will guard crush them and they'll get hit by the blue orb or a follow-up combo. There are other ways to guard crush as Reimu, and those ways can be powerful. So check out Going Up and Fran Franberger's Reimu Tech Google Doc in the description for more guard crush setups and other information. But for now, mix up between down B and melee pokes on offense. Beat mashing with well-timed attacks or blocking those reversals, beat grazing with melees, and beat excessive blocking by guard crushing, or at least some spirit orb depletion. Just to let you know, it's okay if the opponent escapes your offense, since you can just return to controlling space and interrupting them. And that's about it for Reimu's base game plan. Now you know, at long range, you want to control space with C bullets, Hakurei amulets, and walls, and interrupt the opponent with yokai busters and B bullets. At closer range, anti-air with forward B and down C, or when bullets don't work, forward A, down forward A, and dash C. Air-to-air with aerial neutral A and aerial upward A. On the ground, keep the opponent out with melees like neutral A, down A, and forward A. On defense, block, and graze bullets and use defensive system mechanics to escape pressure. And on offense, use down B to start pressure, then outrange or block opponents mashing, melee opponents grazing, and guard crushing opponents blocking. Remember that this isn't the only way to play Reimu, so feel free to experiment with her moveset. As there are many things you can learn and improve in this game, don't forget to check out the resources in the description, including the Soku Discord servers, where you can ask the more knowledgeable players your questions and find friends to play with. Have fun with Reimu Hakurei, and thanks for popping in!